Okay guys, it's that time. Waited a week to finally be able to talk about House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J. Maas. I do want to say that the second that I closed this book, immediately 5 stars. Like, no questions asked, 5 stars. But then I sat on it for a few days and I realized that there were some things that I did not particularly enjoy about this book. So my overall rating now, it's a 4-star book for me. I've seen a lot of people say that the reason why people aren't liking this book is because a lot of people were expecting ACOTAR 6. So I liked how they did it. I liked that we got like Nesta and Azriel. I liked how it was like kind of like intertwined. I liked the cameos that we got. I think that Bryce, Nesta, and Azriel were great to put together, not only because it's kind of setting up what the next ACOTAR book like might look like plot-wise, but I think that those 3 characters, they're all very skeptical, a little strong-willed, not quick to just trust. So I liked seeing that dynamic. I know that people wanted them to become like best friends right off the bat, but I kind of like the fact that they weren't. I kind of like the fact that Bryce was a little bit of a bitch to them. Let's start off with the things that maybe I didn't love. I feel like this book was very low stakes. I went in very unworried. I was not worried about Bryce. I was not worried about Hunt. I was not worried about Rune, and I was not worried about Lydia. If you're mated with somebody, that person's not dying. But I did expect somebody important to die. Like, the stakes seemed so high at the end of Sky and Breath that I thought that there was no way that we weren't going to have like some emotional death. Even in Kingdom of Ash, we get the 13 dying. And maybe we're not physically like attached to them as characters. Astern is the only one that we really like get to know, but they sacrifice themselves for a beloved character. And the way that they do it, it evokes a lot of emotion. There was no death in this book. Nobody died. I sure thought Baxine would have died. I think that if he had sacrificed himself to save Hunt or to save Bryce, like, I'm doing this for Danica, this is what Danica would want, it would have been so impactful. And I kind of wish it happened. I really was, honestly, I was hoping Ethan would die. Ethan was the most intolerable character in this entire book. If you know me, you know I am a Kale hater to my fucking core. Ethan and Kale live in that black pit in the middle of my soul. 1, he's a fucking moron, and 2, he's so fucking annoying. Death, please. Don't get me wrong, because I love Bryce. I wasn't loving her treatment of Hunt. The first book, I think what I loved so much about Bryce was that she'd been through so much, and she still like was kind and caring and like would do anything for her friends and always been strong-willed and really like solid in her convictions. But Hunt has been through so much. He has been through so much in 200 years that Bryce in her 25, 26 years of life will never be able to understand. He's like, I don't want to have to go through this again. Like, I don't want to have to lead another war. And I don't know if I can watch you die or watch our friends die. And she kind of like gets mad at him for it. And I wish that she was like more understanding and more supportive, because Hunt, at the end of the day, he 100% supports her. Sky and Breath, the entire plot is centered around and kind of like pushed forward with the whole like Sophie and Emil plotline. All kind of like wrapped up at the end, where it's almost like it's too good to be true. Sophie's actually really dead and Emil has no powers. Now he's just living as Cooper with Ember and Randall. I was like, there's no way it was that easy. Emil's gonna come in, he's gonna have special powers, he's gonna play this big role. I feel like Sky and Breath, while I loved it, and I actually liked it more than Flame and Shadow, Flame and Shadow undid a lot of the plot lines from Sky and Breath. And so what did I love about this? Because I gave it 4 stars, so obviously I loved it, so sorry for complaining. But I think that's something that Sarah does so well, is write really amazing action sequences. I think she writes it so well. 1, it's easy to understand. 2, it's easy to visualize. And like 3, like you feel the intensity that these characters are feeling. Like she does a great job, I think, at writing those kinds of scenes. I know that a lot of people had an issue with how quick the POVs were changing. I loved it. I felt like I was at the edge of my seat. Like all of a sudden you're in Lydia's point of view, and then it switches to Hunt, and then it switches to Bryce, and even it switches to Tharian, and I was like, sure, fine. It was like constantly like moving the plot forward. And I loved it. I know a lot of people had an issue with it, but I really, really liked how she did it. Already talked about Hunt and my love for Hunt. I think that his utter perfection. In this book, like, I always thought he was a perfect man. Tenfold after this book. Hunt can come here, stab me in the chest, and I'd say, no, you had a reason. You had a reason. You're justified, and I love you. I thought that the way that Sarah tied Thea and Celine and Helena all together, and like that whole story with Peleus, Theon maybe, last High King of Prythian, I thought it was done so well, and I thought it was so easy to follow. I loved how she had to like kind of like collect the power and like merge it all into one within her and like become this like vessel, like our one true starborn princess. I loved it. I love that the fan theories, 99% of them were wrong, because I love an author who can still surprise me. If the theories were that easy to guess, that every fan could figure it out, and it wouldn't be exciting to read. I thought that the battle with the Asteri, like, I just want to talk about that for a minute. I thought that that was done so well. Again, like, I love that there was like different pieces going on all at once. Bryce basically sacrificing herself to save her friends was so on character for her. I love at the end when they're all holding the black hole open so her and Hunt could get back. Something that Sarah loves to do is kill the main character and then have them come back to life. I loved the Jessica storyline. I loved that she was human and that she was cursed by Apollyon and that she's been the protector of the Great Library of Parthos and that she was a priestess. Like, I loved her backstory. I'm gonna miss her. I kind of wish that she didn't die. I think that, like I said, there's other people who could have that were like a lot less interesting as her, but I loved how that storyline kind of like closed up because we never really knew why Jessica took such a liking to Bryce, and now we understand it. I would be remiss if I did not talk about the character who stole the fucking show. The character that literally has the potential to move up into my #2 spot, and that is Lydia Servos. The most interesting character I think Sarah has ever written. So complex, strong, but also compassionate, but also like bad fucking ass. Like, everything about Lydia I loved. I have no notes on her. I would change nothing about her. The Hind for life. Why did we leave Baxian and Fury on the island? We're gonna leave Fury. Fury, who like from the beginning, from the first book, is like, we don't know what she is, but she's this like crazy assassin and everybody's afraid of her, like whatever. And then we're just gonna have the biggest battle of our lives. We're just gonna leave her. I have a bone to pick with Miss Sarah. I have an issue with her interpretation of timelines. This whole book, 7 days, you're saying that House of Sky and Breath ends. She's running through she jumps through the portal, she lands in Prythian. And 7 days later, the Asteri they're dead. I was like, oh, Hunt and them, they're being tortured. It's like at least 2 weeks. It was like 2 days. I mean, granted, Baxian bit Rune's hand off and it was terrible. For an almighty being, you can't withstand a little torture for 2 days. Like, I don't feel bad for you. You grow your fucking hand back. And finally, the last thing that I absolutely loved, I'm only disappointed that we didn't get more of it, were the Princes of Hell. I am so intrigued by them. One, they're funny, like the banter between the brothers, so funny, I loved it. I need to know their background. I need to know like what exactly it is that they do. Because when Bryce is like, oh, like, you know, are all of the brothers, like, is everybody coming to help? And they're like, no, just like us three, because like our 4 other brothers are like off, like in other realms, like saving like other, like, whatever. Like, what is their point? Are they like these like vigilante, like little demons who like go around like saving like worlds? What do they do? Anyway, I loved it. 4 stars. Wasn't exactly what I was expecting, but I also like being surprised when I'm reading. So, like I said, so far, the only thing that I think Sarah J. Maas has ever done wrong is Crowd of Midnight and Tower of Dawn. I will reread this. I will not reread those other ones. And 4 stars.